Jason Isaac. Look at this guy. Is he paused already? No sound yet. Jay Sykes. Look at him. Clown wearing my clothes.
Can you hear me or?
Yeah, perfect.
Is this picture good or?
That's crystal clear. You look like Mike O'Hearn.
Yeah. I doubt that.
You're looking pretty, man. What do you got going on?
I just finished cardio, bro.
Did you?
Yeah.
What are you down to?
235.
Shut up.
235, bro.
Holy shit. Let me get that. Oh, I can't even put my arms over my head anymore.
Well, is that because your shoulders are bad or?
Yeah.
Especially
my left one. I'm like stuck right here. I can't even. It sucks.
It's amazing once you get cranking that shit opens up, right?
Yeah. I just started training pretty good. The last month, me and Nate here been killing it. Do you remember Nate? Nate won your show in Boston, the light heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've met. I've been watching your stuff too, so I'm keeping up to date on all the. I like what you guys are doing, man. It's awesome, you know.
Good. We're glad you came on. I know you're a busy dude.
Yeah, no, the mornings are good for me. I'm usually up pretty early, and I'm pretty steady right now with all the business stuff. But supplements are doing really well, dude. It's going very well.
Awesome. Is 235 the lightest you've been since you retired?
Yeah, since I started at 200 when I started training, and I went up to 240 within, dude, like a month or some shit.
What, so back in 1990?
91 when I started training, when I was 18. So I put on 50 pounds like within 4 months.
That's crazy. How much cardio are you doing?
An hour every morning. But, you start to lose that muscle a little bit. But, what's funny, Jose, is that I'm trying to think. When I won the Tournament of Champions, which I won Team Nationals at 214, and then I won the Tournament of Champions at 241. So, yeah, I mean, since I was a teenager, I haven't been this light.
And ever. How old were you when you won the Tournament of Champions?
22.
22. And that's when everything just blew up.
Yeah, I got my first Muscle and Fitness, and I met Joe Weider. Chris Aceto went out there with me, and that was probably, I always say this, that was probably, people think the Olympia and all these other things were like the highlight of my career. I would say that show breakthrough because, coming from Mass, we didn't have a lot of publicity, dude. Like, if we weren't close to the magazines, no one gave a shit about we weren't winning the Gold's Classic in Boston. It really didn't do shit, right?
Right.
So when I won the tournament, that was like against, pretty good people. Is that PD Devers was second to me. He passed away now, but
yeah.
Aaron Madron was seventh in that class. He passed away also. Is he alive or no?
Aaron Madron. I don't know. I haven't heard his name in a long time.
Yeah, he was in that class too, and he became a pro. I mean, there were a lot of good talent guys in there.
Wow. So what? How did you end up meeting Weider? Who was at the show that wanted to?
You know what it was? Like Chris Aceto told me, "Hey, let's try to get a meeting with Joe because I know he'll sign you to a deal." And Ed Connors ended up linking it up somehow. And after I won the show, like towards the end of the week, they got me up to see Joe Weider, and I walked in his office, and he says, "Hey, who'd you shoot with? I want to sign you to a contract." It was crazy. And Chris is like, I told you he was going to offer you money. And I refused the deal because he only offered me like $2,000 a month back then. And I was making money. I was doing, heating, air conditioning, whatever. And I went back the next year and I signed for double the money, in 96. Because I won the Nationals. I'm like, Joe, no, I'm going to come back. I'm going to win the Nationals next year. And everyone thought I was crazy for not going to the Nationals that fall because that was in August and the Nationals in 96, 95, everyone's like, do it. And I think Don Long won that year. And Tom Prince was second. Prince was coming up at the same time. Him and I were kind of like rivals. And then I went the next year and he finished second to me at the Nationals. I got my pro card and Joe gave me a contract. That's when I signed.
Wow. You know what's funny, backtracking when you said you turned it down. we had a conversation with Dana Lynn Bailey a few days ago, and she did something similar. You know, when she started blowing up, she got a contract offer from Gaspari for somewhere around 250K a year, and
Mm-hmm.
Rob was like, "Nope." He said she's worth too much to sign for that, and
Yeah.
I guess the common denominator is successful business people. You know, don't just jump on the opportunities. You got to know your worth, and even at what 22 years old, most 22-year-olds would die for a $2,000 contract.
Yeah, and listen, Jose, I wasn't rich, you know.
Right.
I wasn't rich. I was struggling still a little bit, and I walked out of there thinking, shit, should I have taken the deal, you know? And then I did it, you know?
But he came back with a better offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome.
When you were younger, did you have a business mentor? Like we know Aceto was in your corner and you had probably some mentors within the bodybuilding world. Did you have people that mentored you in the business world? Because, you know, you've just grown and grown and grown. And I feel like a lot of that was probably, whether it's belief in yourself at a young age or willing to take risks like turning down a Weider contract, which nobody would do. Was there someone in your corner that mentored you business-wise?
I had a lot of people actually. Chris Aceto being the major factor. You know, remember I started working with Chris when I was 18. About 6 months into training, I started, you know, Chris Aceto started working with me, just wrote me a diet, and I was very dedicated, so I just followed it, and that's really all it took for my physique, because I was a training maniac. So he mentored me. I had a guy named Bruce Vartanian who I was very close to. He was a local business guy. He mentored me like probably the most. Ed Connors I met at 19. He mentored me. And then basically Joe Weider became like that guy that kind of mentored me about, you know, how to really make this into a business. But there's a lot of people, and I hate leaving people's names out, but there's so many people that had influence on me early in my career that made me great. My family starting off doing the concrete, you know, it's nice to chat with someone you guys are from that Massachusetts area. I mean, you know, we all want to be something great, and we're kind of limited in certain regions out there. And you know, I grew up doing concrete, and my brothers still do that business. They're very successful. They're in their late 50s, early 60s, and I could have basically taken that business, but I chose the bodybuilding route instead. And they were super supportive, but in the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, can you make money doing this? And, you know, what's the future of this thing? And they were always concerned about my health, of course, as they watched me grow and, eventually becoming, you know, a 300-pound bodybuilder. My dad was always, you know, I was the youngest of 7 kids. So he would come to every show. My brothers and sisters came to all the events, and there weren't many. I wasn't like Jose, where I did a ton of like shows to get up to that pro level, right? I basically, I went in two shows, I think, and I got my pro card.
So you did Tournament of Champions and the Nationals?
I did Tournament of Champions in the Nationals, and only other shows I did prior was basically the Teen Nationals. I did a show like 4 weeks from the Teen Nationals to qualify. It was in Schenectady, New York. I think Chris had Laura guest posing. He's like, hey, you need to qualify. Come do this show. And I competed in the men's and the teenage, and I won both and qualified. And then I went to the Teen Nationals, and I won my division there, and lost to Branch Warren the overall. And that's really where a lot of people started to notice. I took a trip to California after that. There's that story at the Boston Globe, the misprint for $99 round trip tickets. So Carrie and I flew out there, got to experience Gold's Gym Venice for the first time, and I met Ed Connors. And from then on, I'm like, man, this is what I want to do after seeing all those guys out there training. It was like the heyday.
Yeah. I talked to Ed the other day. I sent him an article about Gold's Gym selling for $100 million.
Yeah, he was probably shocked. I think is he involved or?
I don't think so, because he goes, it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's like, it's a shame they not once in 16 years did they ever contact me for advice or anything.
Yeah, this company McFit that has these McFit gyms in Germany. I don't know if you ever trained out there. I've trained in those facilities, and I mean they're monster gyms in Germany. They're part of that whole deal. So it's interesting. I mean, Gold's Venice isn't what it is. Your brother will tell you that. It's not what it was in the heyday. And I know you thought about moving out there at one point. But the aura of Gold's Gym, I talk about it a lot on my YouTube channel, and I'm sure Nate, like from a distance, you see, man, like you hear the Gold's Gym Venice stories. There's just endless stories about it. And, you know, you think about the walls, like where Arnold, he didn't actually train there. He trains there now, but, you know, that was a different Gold's Gym. But to walk in the gym and see all those greatness, and my dream was to have my picture on that wall when you walk in and you see it on the right. Yeah. And I'm like, man, when I walked in there, you know, in 1993 at 20 years old, and I'm like, could this be me? You know, that became my vision, and eventually it became reality.
Yeah, I was out there in 98, and, you know, obviously my brother moved out there then, and for the first, you know, till about 2006, 7. And then it seemed like, you know, a lot of the pros weren't even training there. It was different, you know. When I went there the first few times, you would see 10 celebrities in there. For anyone like Rebecca Lobo, Lisa Leslie, Kobe Bryant, actors, James Caan, you know, there'd be anyone you could think of would be. I met The Rock in there, and now my brother's not even back. He didn't go back when they opened because he's got that set up at home, and he's like, you know, he wasn't in any rush to go back, and he was smart because they closed in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was. I know we did a segment on him, and I talked a little bit about, you know, I know he's training he trains a lot of affluent people also. I mean, he trains a lot of celebrities, right? But it's really, I don't want to predict the future, but I see things changing, and you've probably seen this. I'm not sure what the future is there. And I know in Vegas, like I moved to Vegas in 2002, and we had Gold's Gyms here, and the famous Sandhill Flamingo Gym. You've probably trained at it.
I loved it.
You know, all these places are gone now, and it's more of the commercial, which I understand. It's more of a, you know, cheaper membership, and get the more volume of people in there. They don't really want the hardcore in there that are going to scare people or whatever. And, you know, a lot more women are training, Jose. That's the thing about Gold's Gym. You talked to Ed Connors back in the day. Women didn't train at Gold's Gym, and eventually it became the women started coming in and started training. And, you know, now we've seen an influx of women. I mean, even for my team that I've developed with the nutrition brand, like I have a lot of women that use products on a daily, and there's competition levels now that allow all types of athletes to compete, right? I mean, even on the amateur levels, I mean, you've seen the Jay Cutler events and all the shows out there that, you know, you judge them, and you see that now with the new divisions. I mean, the bodybuilding side has kind of gone to the wayside a little bit.
Speaking of which, how are you feeling with this COVID stuff? What's going to happen with your shows?
We tried to push the Jay Cutler to August 15th. That just got canceled 4 days ago, at the end of last week. And now we're scheduled for November 7th. Vegas canceled, Virginia canceled. And the reason these places canceled is we just couldn't have the capacity. So it's very hard to have a bodybuilding event. We tried to push Boston as long as we could, but they're only opening with 25 people to a room right now. And that's impossible to have an event as such. You know, we decided, you know, let's postpone it till next year. We're hoping that by November 7th for the New England that it's able to come back, and that will be my only event of the year. And for 20 years, I traveled to trade events. I was face to face with the fans all over the world. And this has been an awkward year because for the first time in 20 years, I haven't traveled extensively like I had before. And, you know, every weekend, if you follow me on social, I was in another place.
Right.
It's been nice, though. I'll be honest. It's been a little nice. I've been doing a little more stuff online, but I think the expo stuff is definitely going to be an issue moving forward for some time.
Forever, or you think? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm saying, do you think they're going to have to change that forever? Or, I mean, we remember the days of the Arnold Classic that it seemed like 100,000 people in one room. I mean, it was madness. You literally
until they have a vaccine, Jose, I think that, you know, that's a comfortable vaccine. And the problem is are people going to take the vaccine? Right. There's so much paranoia right now with all the political stuff. And I'm not a political guy. I believe that this thing is somewhat real. It's questionable where it came from, right? I think it's overblown to a certain extent. And I really believe, and people may criticize me for this, listen, someone like me who has a crazy immune system and is out and about, and I'm willing to take the risk to go. I'm careful. I'll follow the rules and regulations with the mask. We have to wear it here. I know people say, hey, the mask doesn't help or it's more dangerous, but that's just the rules that I'm following right now. I think, you know, the people with symptoms that could have a possibility of infection that, you know, capitalize on other health issues, they need to stay home. I mean, they need to just avoid it. The world must go on. I'm a financial guy, so I mean, you have to continue. And I've been careful. I went to Utah last weekend. We kicked off, you know, an event there, and it was great. We have to get back to life, man, because the world is a much worse place right now with the situation. I know a lot of people that are a little sideways in their head right now with what's going on.
Yeah. So going back to the gym stuff, Jay, have you ever had the itch to get in the business? Have you had offers made to you to say, look, come on in. We just want to use your image. You'll give you X% equity. How close have you come in to that industry?
Good question, Nate. Not very close, to be honest. I had like that mindset when I was early, you know, my early 20s, and wasn't sure if where I was going to head, but my dream was always to move to California. And what I realized in the space out here, you have to have a multiple facility ownership in order to be successful. So in one location is very difficult. And the problem is, you know, to build the kind of square foot facility that you really need in this day and age, the real estate's expensive. You need the membership, you need the clientele, and there's a lot of competition, right? So you've seen the gyms go from workout facilities to adding pools or basketball courts or turf, or, you know, you've seen CrossFit now. I mean, even Gold's Venice has now turned into more, they put in those CrossFit racks in there. You need to change with the times. And I think that, you know, having a facility that's just, it's kind of pigeonholed into a weightlifting gym, it's very difficult. But I think you can adjust, but you have to be almost like a real estate person in order to be successful. I think owning the property is something that you really should look at. And yeah, I've been approached all overseas. I've been approached locally, but I never really thought, because I'll be honest, like when I leave the gym, I mean, I did this for so long, like I escaped that, right? So I go put my job in. It's like, you know, if I compare it to someone who works at an office, right? When they leave the office, they go home, they spend time with their families, they shut off, right? I think with a gym business, it's just a 24/7 thing. And for me, I need an escape. And I love bodybuilding, I love weight training, but to be honest, I mean, it's just, you need that valve that shuts off and separates you from what your career sometimes is. And that's the thing with a bodybuilder. Anyone that's owned a gym knows it's 24/7.
That was a lot of my background. So I had competed back in 2005. I'd done the New Englands and Mass States, and I went into that industry, was fitness manager for like a big corporate chain. Eventually started my own thing where I subcontracted the training to gyms. I went in and said, give me the exclusivity, I'll put in a manager, trainers. And then I became part of a startup that I came in at 4 gyms, and we grew to 80 gyms. It was 4 gyms like locally around New England, and then it was 80 across the country, California, Texas, Chicago. And exactly what you're saying of, you have to have something for everybody. You have to make it affordable, almost like a Netflix or a Spotify subscription. Of the challenge is just getting them to walk through the door to sign up, get that credit card, and then they forget about it. That's sort of how you're successful in this. We would have gyms probably our average club netted 600, 700K per year. You know, but you've got to get the rent at $20,000 a month for a 20,000 square foot facility. You know, you have the metrics that make it work, but man, is it a grind. Every month you're saying, I have to get 300 members to sign up. And it's just this hamster wheel of what can I do to get people to come through the door to sign up and hopefully never come back and use it. Because those are the value, you know, essentially they're subsidizing the people that are using it. So I got burnt out a little bit of it. And I didn't lift really hardcore for a while because I spent 12-hour days in this gym just hustling for personal training sales, for membership sales. And it wasn't until I removed from that, then I connected with Jose, that I got that love back for the gym. But I got burnt out for a long time from that industry.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's like I said, I love bodybuilding and I love working out, and I've done it. You know, I've had the passion actually since I was 12. It's funny, I didn't start training until I was 18, but I always followed bodybuilding books, which is a thing of the past now. And I still follow some of the new up and coming people, and I still walk in these gyms and I eye the gyms and I say, wow, that's different. That's cool. They have a good model that's going here in Vegas. The old Gold's gyms became EOS Fitness, and they're nationwide also. And, you know, I've talked to the guy who runs these pretty much. He's like, he flies around and opens up the new facilities. And, you know, these are all the challenges, especially now with the shutdown. You know, Arizona, they have facilities and they fought to try to keep them open. They weren't successful at that. So it's just an odd time right now. And Jose, your brother's a smart man for working out of his garage. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's lucky. He you know, over time built that thing in the last few years, because it's locked.
What I love about Tito is he's very functional, right? He works with functional things. And, you know, I actually hired him to train my ex-girlfriend because I just watched what he did in the gym, and, you know, she just didn't want to lift weights. She just wanted to do something different. So I watched him do all that functional stuff. And I remember he became a CrossFitter for a minute.
Yeah.
And realized how tough it was, right?
That's how all his injuries came from.
Yeah. So here's a guy that went from, you know, crazy, you know, you guys were legends, you know, in Massachusetts, and then moved on to, you know, become, you know, nationwide recognized, and, you know, you became worldwide with your career. But, you know, he was a machine, man, and he was strong as hell for a little dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I still got 50 pounds on him, and he could out deadlift me any day of the week.
And he's got the hip done, right?
Yeah, he had both of them done. I just had my left one done.
Yep.
I got to get the other one done eventually. But I'm pushing it now. I want to get everything out of it I can before I have it done again. The pain in the ass.
Yes, yeah. Luckily the injuries, you know, I was a huge therapy guy through my career, and I always feared having the shoulders. And, you know, I see a lot of guys with the shoulders now. You know, remember I tore my bicep in 11 when I lost to Phil Heath, and I'm like, damn, am I going to be able to recover from this? And it took a long time for me to be able to get the extension. You know, that was the hardest part.
Your shoulders are fine. You have that external rotation.
You know, I can do it all. Like, I can go behind the bar when I squat, and I'm very thankful for that. Like, people are surprised. I'll be 47 next month, and I'm still training with a full capacity, not heavy weights or anything like that, but I'm still in the gym, you know, 5-6 days a week. And I'm not limited on the movements that I do. I just love, you know, Jose, I love bodybuilding. I mean, I knew at 40, I wanted to step away from the competitive side, and I don't miss it one bit. Like, I don't have regrets, but sometimes I look back and I wonder how I was that focused to be able to do what I did. I don't even think I could put myself in that realm at this point, which is crazy because I was the best at what I did for a long time, right? But the mindset it's all the mindset.
Yeah.
To prepare.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions. You can answer them or not. Or we put out a few posts to see what people wanted to hear, and there's a lot of nonsense and but some of them are kind of interesting. Like, what did you do different for 2009? That was because you always were in great condition. 2001, you were, I mean, you had the shape, you had size, fullness, and condition. But 2009, you were just insanity dry. It was like you put everything on the line for that one. You know, good or bad, you were going for the most insane look. And what was it? Was it a mental thing? Was it a supplement thing? Was it what totally different did you do? Because someone asked that, and I thought about it, and I'm like, that's a good question, because it could have been your last year, you know?
Yeah, it should have been, Jose. And let me just elaborate. So I'm going to go back to '01. I worked with Aceto through my career. '01 was a I'm going for broke type attitude. And you know how Chris gets, like, let's just come in like you're going to come in. I trained for the whole year. I started the diet very early. I was in shape by 10 weeks out, and I carved up for 10 weeks and walked into the show at my best ever. That questionably is the best look I ever had. If you ask Chris, he says yes. Now, fast forward to '09. I mean, I won in '06, and I lost to Dexter in '08. And then in '09, I teamed up with Hani, okay, which, you know, Chris and I kind of, like, we were just like, listen, this just, it wasn't clicking like it probably should have. And that, I think it was partly, I had a really big crew around me, and I became like, okay, well, this works for me. And you know how Chris is. This is how Chris Aceto is he's like, okay, what do you think? Should we do low carbs, or should we up the, you know, what should we, he always asks, like, what do you think? He doesn't just say, hey, do this. He gives his opinion, but he'll say, hey, but it's your choice, right? This is like what he elaborates, like, this is what I think, and this is why. And I think we just came to the point where we weren't clicking. And I think it was the influence around me, because one guy would say, no, he looked better on Tuesday. And Chris would be like, well, today's Friday, and it doesn't matter what he looked like on Tuesday, you know, he needs to be better today.
Yeah.
And so we ended up just saying, you know what, let's try doing something different. Hani just fell on to me. He didn't approach me. He became an I, like, hey, can I bounce a couple things off you? Not that he had success with Heat already, but, you know, I knew he was kind of tight with Ronnie or whatever. We were friendly. And he, you know, we worked in the FST7 protocol together, which is, you know, the 7-set training stuff at the end of the workouts. And we filmed some stuff, and, you know, we trained together through the year. And typical off season, I trained the same way, volume training. He fed me a lot of food, and he was very particular about, hey, did you get your meals in today? Stick to the red meat. Let's go to 7 meals instead of 6. Okay. And that's how I kind of walked into that show. And, you know, and I say at the end, you know, I did do cardio more than I ever had, Jose, for quite some time. I did 2 45-minute sessions, and I did the stairs for the first time. First time ever I did this rotating stairs solely for the show. So I did 2 45-minute sessions, even on leg.
2009
ever.
Was the first time you ever did the step mill?
Ever.
Wow,
Ever.
that explains a lot.
I only did treadmill or bike, or I didn't do cardio at all. You know, Chris wasn't a huge advocate of cardio, because I had such a crazy metabolism that he's like, you know, I don't want you to do cardio. So I think just, you know, him being a little critical, and I think it was his reputation on the line too. He really wanted to prove, and I also had, you know, an 08 after losing, like, am I good enough to win? So I had to get out of that in my head. And then I walked into the show, and basically, you know, I was a lot drier. Did I do some different things with the protocol? Absolutely. More anti-estrogens. I mean, that definitely, which I didn't mess with, honestly, before. You'd be shocked at the level I was at, and the little tweaks that I didn't really necessarily do in order to be better. And I walked in and won. I mean, I was lighter than I had been, 254. I mean, had won my first Olympia at 273. 01, I was 255.
So I know Chris is very moderate with his stuff. Were you using considerably more to get ready for '09, or was that not really a point?
No, it was not. The only thing I could say I used that I never really messed with was like anti-estrogens when it comes to like Arimidex and Aromacin and Novadex and all those things, because like Chris never really, like we didn't, it was funny with Chris that we never talked about the supplement protocol much. Right. He would ask me once in a while, like, hey, what do you take or whatever? But whenever he sent me a diet, Jose, it was, okay, you're going to eat 300 grams of protein and you're going to eat 450 carbs or 1,000 carbs, or he never told me what food to eat or anything on that side of protocol. And you're shaking your head and you're smiling because you probably know what I'm talking about, right?
I had someone ask me today and they said, oh, I noticed you put like, I put this like crunch mix in my tuna. And he's like, did Chris say that was okay? And I was like, no. I'm like, if I'm making progress, he don't care what I'm eating or how I get it. As long as I'm making progress and going in the right direction, we don't really talk about, unless like he knows that I'm eating a lot of fish and he notices I'm flat, he'll say, go have a steak, you know. But yeah, we never got into exact sources of protein or even exact sources of carbs, really.
No, and you remember, I worked with him from the early years too. So, you know, I would send pictures once a week. When I was in California, you know, I'd have to take the snap pictures, wind up the camera, snap the pictures. I remember, you know, Kerry would take the pictures and we'd have to run to the hour photo development. And then I would FedEx them overnight to Chris because we didn't have digital then. So, and he'd get the pictures, bro, and he'd say, the lighting's bad. You got to do another set. So I literally had to the next day do another set of pictures and make sure the lighting was better. And I couldn't tell because when you snap the pictures, you don't know what they look like till you get them in the
see them
till they're developed, right?
Right.
And today they have it so much easier. You know, you can say, what do you look like right now, right?
Yeah. To be fair, Jay, to be fair with Chris, I think like with you, with myself, he knew us really well. And he knew we both knew what we were doing. So he trusted us a lot more. If it was someone new that he didn't really know, he would probably say have 8-ounce potato, you know, 7 ounces of cod or whatever.
I think some people need it spelled out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some people are like, how much water should I drink? Right?
Yeah.
Chris, like, can I drink Crystal Light? Can I use Splenda? Like, we were past all that shit, right? Like, to me, like I didn't use condiments. Like for the fish, like when we're working with Hani, because he was huge on the fish, I would put mustard on it. You know, he didn't he would be like, you can't use ketchup and you got to cut Splenda like X days out and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is different from what I've done in the past. You know what I mean? But I guess my back was against the wall, so I really didn't have a choice, and I was willing to listen. The difference is, and when I came back in 10 and I won again, I didn't have the same mindset as I did in 09. That's why I don't think I looked as good, because I kind of was like, how do I overcome 09? Like, that was the biggest victory ever, right? Like, you don't get better than that. I came back, I won like in a huge like victory fashion, and
history. No one's ever done that.
And I looked amazing, right? And I was at the end of my career. You know, you don't think you're going to get better in your late 30s, right? I think I was 36 or I think I was 37 or something then. And I was like, man, like, this is the top of the top. And then I won in 10, and then eventually I lost in 11. But I planned to retire in 11, which sucked for me because losing to Phil was tough for me because, like, it was the end of the road, right? That I knew that was supposed to be number 5. I'm sitting here looking at the medals in front of me, and I have that silver sitting in that corner on the top. And it's every time I look at it, it's not like, oh, I achieved that. I was like, fuck, I got that silver up there, you know?
That sucked.
Jay,
what did you say to him? That was like the most classy display that I'd seen on an Olympia stage.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke. I said, man, I'm passing the torch. And I was happy for him. I knew I was going to lose. I tore the bicep, so it was a mess, you know. I knew leading into the show, I kind of was like, shoot, is this going to happen? I didn't think Phil would look as good as he did. That was the best Phil ever looked. I'll say that on record. 11 was Phil's best lines, and the best package he brought, right?
Only 230.
Yeah, him lighter was definitely better because his midsection, you know, he's not a big dude, so he's not meant to be a 250-something pound bodybuilder, though he can hold it better than most.
Right.
He was just like Ronnie in 98, right? He was better when he was in 98 shape.
Yeah.
I said to him, you know, hey, congratulations. I was ecstatic for him. I knew this was the beginning of a huge career. I never imagined he would win as many times as he did. I thought he'd win 10 once he got going, which surprisingly he stepped away. But
I think he still could.
Yeah, he still could come back, but unfortunately the rein was like broken, right? So it changes the scope a little bit.
Yeah.
But shoot, there's a lot of money. It's double what I was winning in my prime. You know what I mean? And I know the contracts aren't the same, but I was very happy for him at the same time. But I was already, you know how my career was, Jose. I was so successful in so many areas, like even inside and outside fitness, that whether I lost the Olympia and retired, it really didn't make a difference for me. I achieved way more than I ever thought I would have. I never planned on winning 4 Sandows, not even one. You know, I started as a bodybuilder that just wanted to be financially supportive of a career, meaning I could eat my chicken breast, afford a gym membership, and maybe rent a decent apartment and drive a decent car. Yeah. And eventually it formed into the business that it has.
Can you go into some of your other ventures that aren't Jay Cutler Nutrition or the training, Team Cutler, some of the outside of bodybuilding things?
Yeah, I mean, the real turner for me, and this was influenced from Aceto too, was the real estate side. I mean, he's a huge real estate, you know, he's heavily involved. I became more of an investor. I mean, I moved to Las Vegas solely for the real estate after 9/11. You know, I bought my house in Cali in 2000 after I won the Night of Champions. And then I had a big run in 2003. I moved to Vegas in 2002. I built a beautiful home. And I saw the opportunity for the real estate. I got in with one of the builders. I bought 7 homes in 2003 with all the prize money. At the time, you were able to just put 5% down on a home, and I was flipping houses. And I had a great run doing that, and sold a lot by 2004. I became a residential renter, kind of like Chris is doing on a smaller scale. That wasn't really for me. I had a management group that kind of managed some of my rentals. I had one girl try to commit suicide on one of my properties, and it was kind of a turning point for me. I had so many other things going on at the time. So I kind of, you know, built up my equity in all the residential stuff. And then I moved into some commercial. I started buying land, and I got into more deals where I was in with these development groups. And that's pretty much what I do now, is more of an investment process in some of these bigger projects like golf course projects, or, you know, I did one in Palm Springs probably 2 years ago. Didn't do anything last year, which, you know, is kind of off the norm for me, but I kind of had a feeling with way things were going, and I was building the brand, the supplement brand. So I didn't really want to dive too deeply into, I wasn't sure what my position would be at this point, which, you know, the company is doing extremely well. But, you know, I got into a lot of stuff. I got into, you know, ammo, cutting, cleaning ammo. I bought a machine for that. I still own that machine, which I'm trying to sell right now.
Ammo?
Yeah, like for guns, for guns. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. So cutting and cleaning brass, it's a bliss machine. So I got into that as more an investment. You know, I do medical liens, which, you know, I buy MRI liens. I have a business that I do that. I do some stuff in the cultivation cannabis market for a different entity that I have. More of an investment. I'm not an expert on cannabis.
No.
We have a lot of friends that are probably more experts than I am,
right.
Jose.
Yeah.
We come from that background, you know, a lot of people we know. So, I mean, there's so many different ventures that I did. You know, I built a home in Utah. People don't know this. In 2005, I had planned to move to Utah. I actually got involved with a supplement, like a multivitamin back then. And, you know, had this dream of moving to Utah and, you know, being away from everything. And then I won the Mr.Olympia, and that sidelined that. But I've always had interest in, you know, California. Like, that's I think my end position. even though it's crazy right now, I do want to own property. I had a condo there last, few years ago. But eventually I'd like to hang my hat there half the time, and then spend the rest in Las Vegas.
That's beautiful there and quiet.
Yeah.
A lot of privacy there.
But the real estate's crazy there. And like I said, I'm not too deep into residential things anymore. Especially now. I mean, I'm kind of thankful I'm not a landlord right now. But I'm always looking for different opportunities. And to be honest, right now, I'm not chasing anything because the product line is doing so well. And I do all my online, like the Cutler Club, and I do my eBooks, and I'm still heavily into the fitness thing. I promote the events, as you know. So I'm very, very busy. Time is the least thing I have right now. And I try to make sure that I enjoy life a little bit rather than just think about what kind of success I can have in different businesses.
Right. Are they closed down out there in Vegas again?
No, things are open. They're in a mask. Of course, the clubs as a club is closed. The pool as a pool is closed, but they're taking reservations, and we're pretty much business as usual. Knock on wood. I mean, hope it stays that way. They're very strict about the masks. I mean, they're walking through the gyms and saying, "Hey, pull up your mask when you're in between your sets." Yeah. I know you guys just went into phase 3, whatever, a week or so ago. So you guys are now open. Are you wearing masks out there everywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will not train with a mask on. I'll end up passing out.
Yeah, well, they don't expect you to here. You just have to put it on when you're walking to the next station.
Right. So I got a quick one. Chris had mentioned, I want to see if you agree with this. When it comes to real estate, he says you never buy a Jay Cutler per se. He's like, always buy the Guy Sistinino and try to turn it into a Jay Cutler.
I don't know. I don't know about that. There's some pretty solid properties that, in certain regions that are, they're solid buys. I mean, the good thing about buying a higher end property, like it's always going to be worth something. I mean, I'll give the example. I mean, Jose, I built my house in 2007, the house I'm sitting in now.
Yeah.
And I paid almost $1.6 million for my house. Okay. When the recession hit, I think my house went down to, I probably could have sold it for about $600,000 at most.
Wow.
Okay.
Very.
It's back up now, but that just goes to show. And I'm not in the most affluent area in Las Vegas. I'm kind of have a really nice development in the middle of horse ranches. But I wrote out the times. Okay, I'm the only one that really in my neighborhood. One of probably there might be 3 other people that are here before me that did not foreclose on their homes. It drives me crazy because the girl across the street, like her house I looked at prior to, buying mine, it was 1.4. I think she paid $700 for it when the recession, when it crashed in 2008, and that house is a beautiful home. So it just goes to show like, what you kind of get in those hard times. But, real estate always comes back. Like Chris said, you need a place to live, right?
Right.
It's just that how good do you need to live? That's the whole thing. There's certain regions in Vegas that have real estate that just stays at a certain level. It's like California. I mean, look at the houses in California. Can you believe that they sell for what they do? I mean,
it's ridiculous.
There's parts of Boston. Boston's one of the more expensive real estates that over in the seaport area or whatever now, they say that's like the hot area.
That's where I live, Jay.
That's where Nate is.
Yeah, bro. Like they told me like that's become the most expensive area now.
So give you an example of how crazy. Yeah. So I'm renting in a building called Millennium Tower. It's like Millennium Partners. There's a Millennium Tower in San Francisco. And so it's like a 60-story building. I'm in a 1-bedroom condo, maybe 870 square feet. And it's on the market now if you want to buy it and be my landlord. 1.54 million for a 1-bed, 870 square feet.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, when I was going through my divorce, I moved into the Mandarin Oriental in downtown on the Strip. And, I think I think back then those condos were 500 grand. They're about the same price now. I had 1,100 feet there. It's 1.5 million for that. Because remember, you got the arena behind you now. You got the Raiders Stadium. You got T-Mobile, and it's called the Waldorf Astoria now. But that's crazy, man. But I'm sure it's a beautiful. What floor are you on?
38th floor.
Yeah, so you have a great view, right?
Yep, overlooking the Seaport Financial District area.
I'm gonna ask you, why are you living there? For the view and for the, right?
For the network, for the other people. I'm the poorest person living here. I'm trying to punch up and make connections. So for the people that can actually afford to live here.
So what are those, a bunch of tech people there, or?
It's really a mix. You have a lot of trust fund kids, which is what it is. A lot of people that were like empty nesters that had the big house in Weston and Newton. Kids went off to college and they don't need the 4 or 5 bedroom house anymore. And they want to be downtown to be able to go out to restaurants and do stuff. So they move into, like the 2-bedroom condos here are probably like $3 million. And the building has a lot of amenities, luxuries, has a private Michael Mina restaurant in it, a big gym, an Olympic pool, all that stuff. But no, for me, it was, I always want to be around people like that so I can learn. I've lived in other buildings where it might be college kids or whatever. And it was just distractions versus the people that I meet in the restaurant, in the gym. They're in any sort of field. I'm training a guy now who is head of a pharmaceutical company, and they're doing clinical trials on a COVID medicine.
COVID, yeah.
So you just get to meet so many interesting people in a building like this.
That's awesome.
So Jay, I was going to ask you, with most of your business being investments, sort of hands-off investments, the due diligence in the beginning is the work, and then obviously following up to make sure your investment's paying off. Why did you decide to get your hands dirty and own your own supplement company versus investing in one?
Listen, I want to first say I have an amazing team around me. I have, great accounting, book management, attorneys for every type of business that I do. So I have a lot of great advisement. We talked about mentorship in the beginning. Now I have mentorship on the business side from, legal side. So for me, I just saw an opportunity, what my passion was, right? And I think if you're very passionate about something, you can be super successful in it. And, I do love helping people. I think I get more out of today helping people and feeling good about that rather than looking at the financial return. So when I launched the new brand, I saw a different, a trend now towards like the direct to consumer, the Amazon, right? So we talked about the retail side, and I don't deal with really any retail with my product line. I mostly deal with direct Facebook marketing, social media, and then I deal with the Amazon side because it's just so much easier for people with Amazon. And I saw, okay, this may be a better, closer connect with my fan base. And I want to focus on the core, and I want to stay home, and I want to, really focus on, kind of going face to face with my fans rather than being on tour every week and traveling overseas or traveling to supplement shops. I mean, my appearances, they vary all over the place between shows and stores and big expos and this and that. And I thought, you know what, I want to come out with a product brand that's, up to date with a lot of new formulations. So I went to more of the transparent labels. I went to some of the new ingredients like the nootropics and, the alpha GPC and all that for like the pre-workouts rather than the stim bombs that people thrived on for the years. So I'm looking at, I'm just launching a probiotic now, products that really make sense for all people, no matter what level it is. I'm not pigeonholing the bodybuilding side, but my fan base, I realize is I thought it would be 17 to 25 would be like my fan base, and more reality, it's 25 to 55 is really what my fan base is. So I want safe products. I want to be able to put out, something that relates to all that age bracket and be able to relate. And, I'm doing a lot of things on social media that, I listen to the feedback from everyone, and I wanted something to take my time, because being an investor and being someone that watches from the outside, and yes, I have my, you know, my P&L calls or whatever, my reviews, you know, every week. It doesn't, you know, my time is still, especially during this time, I'm staying home. It gives me more time to focus on my individual things. And I'm not a guy that goes on vacation every week. And I don't, you know, I don't have a lot of other hobbies than lifting weights and doing outside. As you know, being a bodybuilder, it's very limited what you can do. So I just wanted to do something that, you know, I felt was passionate about, what I did for 20 plus years. And, you know, and I'm having fun doing it. It's hard to imagine, like, you know, when you work a job, like you want to have fun, right? It's like you guys doing this podcast, right? You probably have fun doing it, just learning more. But I'm still out there just trying to keep my brain healthy and learn about new things and listen to what people have to say. So it's exciting for me.
How have you been received from the industry side, right? People that maybe 3-4 years ago were taking you out to dinner, taking you out for drinks, trying to be buddy-buddy, where now all of a sudden you're competing against them with your own supplement company. Have you felt that competition or not at all?
Not at all. Everyone is very helpful. I have to give praise to like Aaron Singerman, who's really helped me with the direct side. And you know, he's answered a lot of questions for me. He's been very helpful on that side because he's been super successful at Redcon 1. And, you know, I'm just learning and people are very respectful because I don't think a lot of the people that are super successful in it, and those are, you know, I deal with all types of people, you know, and I'm kind of more of a private person anyway, but everyone's been very receptive and they're happy for me. And they see what I'm doing and they realize that, hey, if the guy's passionate about it, you know, listen, I'm not out there chasing dollars like some people may. It may like get in and get out type of thing. I don't ever plan to sell my business. I mean, I plan on staying in the game for a long time, if not forever. I mean, I'd love to be involved with the brand forever. I mean, of course, if the right number came, you know, everyone has an exit strategy, right? But I really am passionate about, you know, the whole fitness thing. And I like having my hands in everything. It's like the shows that I promote, you know, have 4 contests right now. And I'll hope to add more in the future because I love getting the feedback from everyone. Man, I stood up here and the families, the expressions, and to see those people compete for the first time. I remember when I was a kid, I was so nervous to compete. My family and friends came and I was so nervous. And so I just love walking around those shows and just, you know, making everyone feel comfortable and say, hey, you know what, you never know where this thing's going to take you.
Do you think with what you know now with your, I guess we'll call it a direct-to-consumer supplement business, do you wish you would have done something like this much sooner rather than take that Muscle Tech contract, or do you think you wouldn't have been able to juggle both?
No, I mean, to be honest, I mean, we weren't in the era that we are right now. I mean, I'm very thankful for the Muscle Tech contracts and the Weider contracts and the Oh Yeah ISS contracts. Those are, you know, the 3 main companies I was signed with, and then I launched my own brand. But you know, I'm so thankful for the opportunities, and I took everything. I don't regret anything, and I just feel like this direct thing has become it's become so popular now, and obviously it's a little more direct. I mean, you can deal directly. I get on customer service. I took a call yesterday from a customer that had a question. He didn't get his 20% discount. And the guy's like, he's like, called. He's like, hey, you know, and it rang through to my cell phone. I forwarded it to my cell phone. And I said, this is Jay. And he goes, no way. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, man, this is really cool. And I'm sure I'll have a customer for life and I said, listen, I'll make sure it's handled. And, you know, and I called the office and I said, hey, make sure this guy gets his discount. He didn't get it. But I deal directly. A lot of the emails I send out, I have a whole team that's a lot better at doing things than I am. I'm not going to sit there and tell you I'm a direct-to-consumer expert or Facebook expert. I shoot a lot of the content, and I'm you know, putting together these commercials. You guys seen the little skits or whatever. But
yeah, I love them.
Yeah, so I'm still learning, man. But I love the customer experience. Like, I get the complaints and I try to calm the people down. If there's like, hey, you shipped me the wrong thing, and I'll ship them something extra, a free t-shirt or whatever. And, you know, I'm all about the customer. So that's what I love about it. And even Angie, like, she's like, why do you deal with some of this stuff? Because you don't have to. And I'm like, because I love it, you know?
Yeah.
I love dealing with it. Yeah, and Jose, I used to pack this stuff out of my garage, and I used to sell the T-shirts, and I would like do all the customer, like, did someone get the wrong thing, or it didn't fit, or they wanted to return? Yes. So they would, they would write to me, and they'd be like, I can't believe you're answering my messages. And I'd call their house, and they'd call me back after they spoke to me, like, is this really Jay? And I'm like, yeah, it's really Jay. They're like, no way. And they tell me their story about how they found me. Oh yeah, I was working out at 12 years old, and I saw you and Ronnie Coleman, and that makes my whole day. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why that'll make a huge difference. I mean, who at, Redcon, Aaron could do it, but it wouldn't have the same effect as Jay Cutler calling your house.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's awesome.
That's awesome. So quickly before we let you go, I know you're busy, but the Olympia is coming. They're saying it's going to happen. We want to get some of your opinions on, one, will it happen? And two, is Flex Lewis going to win it?
Damn, that'd be awesome if he did, right?
Yeah, it would.
I'm a fan of all these guys. Listen, Dexter Jackson winning it would be amazing. Brandon Curry winning his second one would be incredible. Yeah. And Bonnick, who I met, back in Holland when he was, I hate to say a nobody, but he wasn't anything popular at that point. Like, he's transformed into a beast,
Yeah. An ad with Flex like this, and it says a new era is beginning.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Flex has a great shot, especially after seeing Chupin last year, like, get third and questionably could have done better. Jose, if anyone is an expert on this, it's you. You competed alongside. I didn't compete with Flex Lewis or Hottie or any of these guys.
Yeah.
The capability on any day, anyone can win, right? And we kind of have a lot of holes in the lineup right now, meaning there's no one that's super dominant. Okay. Right. It's not the Ronnie Coleman. I'm going to say Ronnie Coleman or Phil Heath era. I'm not even going to put myself on that platform because I had loopholes with condition, and there were guys that could have won very easily when I was off, and that was proven when Dexter won. So I'm going to say Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath because they were kind of unbeatable at certain times. Yeah. And I just see a lot of guys that possibly could win this thing. And will the show happen? That's the big question mark. I can tell you from anyone would know I'm in Las Vegas, right? Yeah. I have a hard time believing that. I know the nightclubs are planning for an opening on New Year's. Okay, they're kind of predicting New Year's that, okay, we may get, it really depends on the vaccine, but they're projecting to possibly have their grand opening on New Year's, which means that there's going to be no big expos until, I can't see an expo happening. That's my opinion.
So would this still happen without an expo?
Listen, they can have a show. The UFC's doing it, but we're not at that level of testing and, putting people in a bubble to do stuff. So they're just going to have to be some sort of protocol. The issue that I see, Jose, is how are these guys going to fly here?
Right.
Because right now, I want to go to Greece. I just said to Angie last week, I want to go to Greece. I posted a picture, we're in Rome, and everyone thought we were in Rome. They're like, how'd you get there? You can't go there right now. Unless I had a Greece passport, I can't. So unless these guys have a U.S. passport, right now they can't. I don't believe they can come here. So what kind of show?
Half the lineup.
What kind of show you have? What do you have? 3 out of the top 5 guys were international guys. You got Bonnick, you got
Rolly,
and you got Hottie Chupin, right? Yeah. And then Brandon. Brandon's in a kind of an uncharted territory by training in Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
This is an obstacle for him. The Kuwait thing is kind of closed down right now. Big question mark. I don't know. Tampa's supposed to happen in 2 weeks. That's going to be the telltale because they need qualification shows, but they don't have I don't know how many guys have qualified. I don't follow it close enough. You may know better. I know you guys were talking about 212s. Like Derek Farnsworth, he's doing 212.
Yeah.
Who else is
unreal, by the way?
He looks great for him, right?
Yeah.
I posted up last night, Jose, on my Insta story. I said, this is the hardest working guy. He's just so passionate, and he's 50. Yeah. I think he's 50, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's still crushing it. Do you watch his videos? And
it's crazy. This is the best I think he's looked.
Yeah, and I don't know if he can win. I can know if he can win, Jose, because you probably know a lot of guys that are better or whatever. But like I said, anything can happen, right? I'm rooting for him. He's the closest guy I probably have to me that's competing in the show. I'd love to see him go in there and do some damage, but I don't know. You know, you're asking me. I'm favorable to support the Olympia, but right now I don't know if I'd plan right now to start training for a bodybuilding show based on what we've kind of seen. It sucks. What about the guys in California? Does Dexter Jackson on August 4th fly to Gold Gym Venice to fulfill his training? How can he? It's closed.
Yeah.
And I know I talked to Dexter and he said, oh, August 4th, I fly there. So does he still go? I mean,
he can't.
Yeah, it's closed, right? For
yeah.
I don't know how long.
This is crazy. It's really crazy. I think I agree with you that this year has more holes than many other years, many other eras. And that's why I've said for the last 2 years that I think Flex could win. I think Hadi could have won last year. And just that fact alone tells you that, like, the really big guys are inconsistent and they don't come in shape. The guys who do come in shape are not very complete or missing something, or where someone like Flex has it all. He might be short, but he's very complete and very conditioned. He's going to be shorter, but I think they love his physique. I think, 7 or 8 more pounds on what he had, 10 pounds would be outrageous, And I think if Hadi was third last year, and I think he could have won, I think Brandon's awesome. I think you could have made an argument from winning. Why can't Flex win?
Yeah, and you know what? It makes you look better if Flex Lewis goes and wins, Jose.
Yeah, that means I theoretically, that's a Guy Sistanino math problem. Theoretically, since I beat Jose in 2013,
yep.
I can beat anyone. Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, I think Flex would be the best storyline to come in, and if I was Flex, this is how I would do it, and this is I'm writing a scenario. Flex Lewis comes in, the show happens. Flex Lewis comes in, he wins, he retires. He doesn't come back to defend, unless he just wins the thing like crazy, like,
only 30.
Everyone's at their best, which, it's impossible. No one's at their best. You're always expecting way more. And then the guys come out and you're like, damn, like this guy missed it or that guy. Right.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him come in and do it. But I'd love to see Brandon repeat, because I've been there. I know what it feels like to be up, hey, can he win another one? And I'd love to see Bonnick also, a Rolly peak, I'd love to see Rolly peak. And there's some other guys. I want to see Kuklo move up. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his.
So Rolly is older than you were when you retired. So it's hard to think that Rolly's going to get any better at this point. If he could just nail his condition, and wow, how are you holding that face? Is he froze?
Yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah, now I thought you were staring off at something.
No, so I think now the people realize that you can compete later into your career. Where when we were coming up, you saw Lee Haney retire at 31, Arnold retired early. You saw even Levrone kind of stepped out in his late 30s, and Sean Ray retired like 35. Lee Labrada,
Dorian,
Rich Gaspari. Yeah. So, and some of those were by choice, some were by injuries. I stepped away at 40. I came back as a shadow of myself at 40, but at 38, I pretty much, I lost a fill and whatever. You competed, you were probably your best in your early 40s, right?
Yeah, I won the Arnold at 41, second in the Olympia at 41.
So people aren't as afraid. And Jose, I'm going to make a point, is you were phenomenal for many years in the amateurs. I mean, you refused the pro card and like you started young. Sometimes these guys start at 30, so they peak later, right? Like a Sean Roden stepped away and he became great closer in his 40s, you know?
Right.
So I think age, it doesn't have much to do with it. It really depends on the time under the weights, right? And how much damage you've done. I mean, we listen to Guy Cisternino podcast, and I mean, God, how's he holding together after all that? He's just beat up, right? He's still going.
Yeah.
So I think now we realize that you can get better, and Dexter's proven that, although he's a phenom, right? Being 50.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about Derek Farnsworth. I mean, think about how long he's been banging at it, right?
Yeah.
And I think he looks amazing. He's not really showing signs of falling apart.
No, I can't believe it.
Well, it's the mental thing. I don't know. Like I told you, we go back to, and when anyone listening to this, they got to understand the mental aspect is the toughest part. Nate, you can probably say this too, because you talked about stepping away because of the pressures of the job and whatever. The mental aspect is so important to what we do. You have to be very, very strong in your mind in order to be super successful. And Derek, I just can't believe with all the things, like he still works on the side and does what he's still got the passion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he's going to do better than people think. Cause he's full, he's big, he's conditioned. He's just short, you know, but his waist, the taper, something's different about him this year. He doesn't look like this in a long time.
Yeah, I'm excited I hope he does really well, man. I hope all the guys do. I hope the shows take off, and, you know, I'm here from a distance supporting, you know.
Hey, I got one more. Someone asked, how do you feel about wellness?
What I've seen so far, I mean, listen, I've seen some of these international chicks are like crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what to take of it. I just watched it up in Salt Lake this past weekend. And, I mean, it's still kind of finding its way. It's kind of like men's physique. I mean, I can't believe men's physique, Jose. The guys are big.
Yeah.
Like really big. And classic guys, I mean, they're even bigger, right? I mean, some of those guys, I mean, they'd win some pro shows, in my opinion, you know? But I'm not so sure about it. I mean, I'm a fan of any division, but I think bikini's different now. I don't think bikini, I think they have them stringed down a little bit more than what I like.
Yeah.
And I think some of them, the condition's a little tighter than what I would like too, you know?
Yeah. So what is the wellness going to be, like a bigger version of bikini?
Yeah, the lower body, though, are pretty, you know, they stand out on these women.
Yeah.
You know, I think they need to figure out how they're going to judge it. I think it's still too new. I think they wanted to kick this thing off, and then of course, the pandemic happened, right?
Right.
It didn't get any feet yet. So I'd have to watch a few more shows to be judgmental on it. You know, I'm not in the position you are. I'll never judge a show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you judged any yet?
No, we haven't had it yet in New England.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you know, I like the bigger butt on a girl.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
No, I hear you. All right. Anything else, Nate? We're going to let him go.
Yeah, one more. So you've been a social media guy the last few years, Jay Cutler TV on YouTube. Obviously, you're collecting the data from that, being able to use that for yourself in the company. In regards to the Olympia happening, my opinion is that they're going to have to find another revenue stream, like through streaming, or somehow sell it to ESPN. I'm a huge UFC fan, and the only reason they can exist is because of the ESPN deal or pay-per-view. They're in a private island in Abu Dhabi right now, just to get around the international fighters, because they can't come into the US, so they had to do that. Do you think that bodybuilding, bikini, men's physique, this collectively is the Mr. Olympia, could survive through a streaming format this year? Because I'm with you. I don't think there's an expo, and I don't think you can pack the the Planet Hollywood Auditorium with people by the time they start. I think there's going to be still social distancing. And so I don't think the money coming in just from ticket sales, limited ticket sales, will be enough to cover the expenses of a $400,000 first place. But do you think we're in an age yet where enough people care about it that it could be on ESPN, or they could sell pay-per-view, or someone like an Aaron Singerman could buy the streaming rights and find a way to make a business off of that?
The streaming is the answer, but the streaming has to be a legit streaming that it doesn't freeze. That's the toughest thing, because we know, have you watched, how many Olympias have you watched on a live stream and they freeze?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so that's the issue. So you're right. You know, Dana White's a genius with what he's done. And, you know, we can talk about the big sponsors, even if we had Coke or Pepsi or, you know, Nike or Reebok or whatever come in and sponsor the Olympia. That's only so much revenue. And they have to say, okay, what is our ROI on this, right? And the problem is like, you got to get enough eyes on it. And they tried the pay-per-view route years ago. I'm looking at a poster from 2004 when they had pay-per-view Olympia right now.
I bought that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's me and Ronnie flexing like that, you know? And you know, they
pretty
had,
well done though. That didn't
what?
freeze. That didn't freeze.
No, because it was actually, I think you paid the $40, whatever it was then. I don't know if it was
cable.
$59. Yeah, so that was, you know, but it wasn't successful enough to continue it. But I think we're in a different era now, and I think that really, if it's advertised, if there's an advertising budget to let people know, hey, this event is going to take place, I really think it could be successful. But there's going to have to be a huge budget to get this thing. They're going to have to tour the guys. They'd have to create press conferences other than the day before the show, which I think is absolute craziness. Like, no one wants to do a press conference, like, you know, when they're depleted and whatever else, right? They have to build the event up through the year, which is impossible this year. We all know this. They can't. But remember, like, when McGregor and Mayweather fought for the boxing thing, they toured all of those countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there needs to be enough finance in order to do that, because we have to look at the top bodybuilding regions, and they need to be able to put these athletes, whether they handpick certain ones. Like, listen, I mean, Hardy is, you know, he's got the Middle East or whatever, or Rami, for example. Like, these people, they're over there. Like, they need to create some sort of tours to get the interest and make people realize, okay, this is the Super Bowl. It's coming at the end of the year. Let's do this. And that's the only way. It's not going to be like, okay, let's just have a show. Let's advertise it whatever months and rely. You know, they need to give the athletes, like, okay, this is the protocol. But unfortunately, the athletes are only going to do so much because they're only paid to compete in the show. They're not paid on a salary. And that's what Joe's vision was so amazing. And he did it through the books, because he gave athletes contracts. They provided, you know, content through the year because they were paid to do so. Right. And that's going to be the issue with the Olympia, because, you know, you have athletes showing up to compete, hoping to get a prize out of it. But other than that, there's no real money. And some of these people, Jose, you know, they don't have contracts. I mean, are supplement companies paying you right now or whatever? I mean, if you wanted to compete, everyone's calling me saying, how, you know, I need to create more revenue. That's the biggest topic today is like, okay, how can I turn my social media into a revenue stream? How can I turn my YouTube into a revenue stream? I mean, there's no real management or a protocol on, okay, this is how you go about doing this once you become successful. People still have that marketing question. And I don't think, as an organization, like, I think that, you know, the Olympia just needs to be able to showcase these athletes other than, you know, just showing up at the show 2 days prior, right?
Yeah. I think most of these athletes got to work. Unfortunately, you know, I never had the luxury, even when I had contracts or multiple contracts and contest winnings. I always worked.
But I'm going to ask you, Jose, did you work because you had to, Or did you work because you actually loved the commitment to working and helping the people?
I love the people. I love my job, what I do, and I knew that someday I wouldn't have a contract, so I had to keep that income coming. And I knew, if I stopped, then that business drops off. So I just never had the luxury of stopping.
And how thankful are you for that today?
I am. I'm very thankful, because I knew the way. I was with 6 different companies over the course of 20 years, and they are just like that. You never know when that day is coming, but it's coming for sure. And I learned quickly that that's how it works.
Yeah, your shelf life is only so long, so you need to create the brand. That's why when we started this thing, I love what you guys are doing. And I'm sure, Nate, you persuaded Jose to do this thing a little bit, right?
Exactly.
And we all need that someone. Like, we all need, that's why I sit here and people look at me as an individual, but there's so many different layers to what I do. And I have so many people around me that make that all possible. So it's not always individual. And, and that's what we have to look at with the fitness side is, we all have, reasons we get somewhere. And I hate to never give people credit. And I think we always have to look at that.
Yeah, 100%. We train together almost daily, and he kept bringing it up and saying, so-and-so was saying this and this. And I'm like, you want to do it? Let's do it.
A big part of it is, since I've known Jose the last few years, I was always on the outside. I was the guy that would do a show and read Flex magazine or Muscular Development and think I didn't know Ron Harris was writing everybody's articles. I didn't know any of that stuff. Just a guy that was a fan. And when I started training with Jose, I started hearing all the behind the scenes stories. I started getting just the truth. And I'm juxtaposing that with what I'm watching on a YouTube video. And I'm like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're, the videos of what is the Rock cycle? What did Arnold take back in the day? All those types of videos. And, I'm hearing it from Jose, and I'm constantly picking his brain because I was so fascinated with a Chris Aceto figure that was in your corner making you a champ and helped Jose towards his success, and Sean Roden. So I'm always asking him, tell me about Aceto. What type of diet would he have you on? What are the supplements? And I was a sponge saying like, man, I can't get this anywhere else. And, then I'd turn on YouTube and I'd see some Generation Iron crap of all the stuff they're airing. And I'm like, man, there's something missing here. Like the conversations I'm having with Jose in the gym, other people need to hear this because this is what's really going on, the good, bad, and the ugly. But it's also, there's the side of who Jose is as a person, his upbringing, his childhood. That's the reason he was successful, not some Chris Aceto protocol. We spoke at length with Mike O'Hearn of his upbringing, and everyone knows your story at a young age. And we started talking about like that's the stuff that you need to highlight, not Jay had some sort of chemical that only he knew about, and that's why he looked great in 2009. It's the mentality, and that's what I've learned from Jose. I never, Jose will tell the story. When I started training with him, my girlfriend was competing in a show, and I was just doing it because I didn't love it anymore, and I thought maybe if I worked with someone like Jose, I would get some of that passion back. And she was doing a show, and Jose said, "Why aren't you doing that show with her?" I said, "Nah, I haven't competed in 13 years. That's done. I'd never stand a chance." And he said, "No, do the show, and you can win it." And I didn't believe him. I laughed. And it's at the time I'm 37 years old, thinking I've been out of this there's no way I'm going to come back at 37 and win a show. And I did Connecticut Grand Prix and won as Classic Physique. And then the next show was Cutler.
Yeah.
It was your show the next year, right? And I win Masters, I win light heavyweight. And so I started to take on the mentality that I absorbed from Jose and believing in myself that I could do this one thing. And so I was so affected by what I was learning from Jose. I'm like, we have to put this out there. We have to get other people that you're friends with. You guys all share this mentality. And we have to put the mentality out there because that's really why all of you guys, I'm just a fan. I'm sitting back saying, man, how did Jay do it? How did Jose do it? Yeah. And I have the luxury of asking Jose how he did it. I'm like, we got to do this more because that's the secret. If there is a secret, it's what's going on up here. and how you're able to be so consistent with this over so many years.
Well, I hope that people take this and watch this and realize like there's a platform and it's just going about and doing it. And that's why I love doing it. But I want to talk a little bit about, I know you guys probably have to go, but you know, when I lived in Mass, you know, Chris Aceto lived in Maine. He lived in Old Orchard Beach, right? And I would drive 2 hours up for Chris Aceto to take a look at me when I was getting ready for the shows. We weren't taking pictures and stuff, but he lived so far. So I'd take my day off and I would drive 2 hours up the main turnpike, literally take my clothes off in my trunks, and I would hit the poses for Chris, and I would turn around and drive home 2 hours. And I did that every single week to show my progression. And that's how I kind of started. I mean, I was training Jose and Bill Ricca, which is, you know, it's like 45 minutes from Worcester. And I would drive out to train at the best facility that Jimmy Dakotas had out there. Yeah. I would train and then turn around and go home. I mean, I would get up at 3 a.m. to go train every morning, drive out there and then drive back because I was so dedicated to what I did. And people don't realize those are the times that made me the successful guy. I mean, Derek Farnsworth was training at that gym back then. Yeah. He was living out there. So like we have a work ethic of nothing else. And I think that spills over into what you guys are doing now. And, you know, everyone can talk about, oh, I should do this. But when you follow through and the success is there, and I mean, listen, I'm watching your stuff every week, guys. Like, I love it, you know, so keep up the great work. It's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I got to ask you, Jay, before we go, I've been meaning to ask you this. So I have a really good friend. So my background is being a musician. I went to school for music, and I gig a lot with a bunch of different cover bands. So a band that I play with all the time, singer in it, his name Danny Williams. His wife is Vivian, and if I have this right, I believe Viv is it her mom?
That's my dad. She met her mom, married my father.
Yes.
Yeah, she was. I met her when she was young. She moved in when I was 18 and moving out and starting my bodybuilding career. She moved. I think she was around 11 then. Wow. And you know, she was married to my dad, her mom, and you know, of course they got separated. But I moved out, and then I hadn't seen them as much. You know, I mean, I visited my dad or whatever, but we kind of lost touch. But yeah, that's what you were talking about, Jose. You asked me about that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, hey, what did you say? Your steps? And I'm like, who? And you're like, yeah, Vivian, you know.
Small world. And Nate also grew up in Lewiston, where Chris lives.
No way.
Yeah.
Chris
all of my family's still in Lewiston right now, too. Everybody's there.
Chris Aceto has the biggest mansion in Lewiston.
Yeah.
I've got to find it. So I asked him on the podcast, I was like, look, you don't have to give me your address because I don't want people showing up at your house, but where do you live? Because I know it. That was where I was born and raised. And he just said it was, what did he say? Like the mayor's house or something. It looks like the mayor's house.
You want to laugh, you guys. I remember when Chris was looking at this house. I think he was staying at my place in California. He's like, I'm going to buy this mansion. And it's some crazy square footage because I think it has like an apartment underneath or something.
It's over 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's huge. Yes. And he was like, you wouldn't believe this house I'm going to buy. And I didn't know where Lewiston was. You know, I only heard about, I think that's where the famous fight was, right?
Yeah, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, so that's the only reason I knew it. But, you know, I remember him raving. He used to look at properties, and I know you guys did like kind of a real estate interview with him, but I remember him calling me about all these things, the early days of like him, I'm looking at this property right now. It's unbelievable. And he's like, I'm getting into, you know, renting these units, and it's just crazy what's transpired with him. But yeah, small world, man. I didn't know. Make sure you tell her I said hello. Did she ever tell you about the beginning of my career, me cooking food downstairs or anything like that?
No, I haven't asked her. It was the last gig I did with her husband, Danny. He was like, oh, Nate, you're into this bodybuilding thing, right? Did I ever tell you that my wife's, what would it be, brother-in-law is a guy named Jay Cutler. Do you know him? And I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, to him it was like, no, he's just some bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. My dad's 91 now. You know, I'm trying to get back to see him actually, so I'll be back in Mass hopefully in the next few weeks.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jay. I really appreciate it. You're the man. You're the king. And
Do I need to send you guys some more shirts or what?
yeah, because this thing is way too small.
Same for me. Jose's put some size on me, so it's a little tight.
Jose, what size shirt are you wearing now?
XL.
Okay. What size is that?
This is an XL.
Damn, you filling that thing out, huh?
Yeah, I think I watched it too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either X or double X.
You love double X. I sent you double X, man, and I couldn't figure out why the hell you wore double X shirts.
Because this stuff, I look like I'm wearing my little brother's shirt. I like them hanging on me a little bit.
Well, man, I look forward to seeing the next interviews. I don't know who's on your list, but it's good when you're a good guy, Jose. Everyone wants to talk to Jose. That's what's going to make this thing super successful. I don't think anyone in this industry will ever have a bad thing to say about Jose.
Well, they better not. You got to do me a favor and get Flex to come on. He's like, oh, bro, everyone's asking me, mate. I can't. If I do it for you, I got to do it for everyone. I'm like,
nah. You're a special. He's too busy, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Well, Brandon Curry's coming on in a few days. So
yeah, that'll be a good interview. He's been a great Mr. Olympia, man. He's done a lot of great things. Yeah.
I love that he immediately went out and started doing stuff with kids, and he started doing stuff rather than just guest posing, and
Here's a guy that you could talk about excuses with the COVID, and he's still doing it, bro. He's still doing so much stuff. So that's what makes you want to just root for the guy. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping for him the show goes on and it's successful. It's the big question mark. But I'm rooting for all these guys. I mean, as you know, it's hard for me to pick and say one guy I hope wins. There's reasons for each guy. I just hope it's super competitive. That's all.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it happens.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Jay. We'll talk to you soon. And
hopefully we'll see you in November.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be there judging for you.
Okay, guys.
I'll guest pose for you.
Dude, I want you to come back. If you decide to come back, I better be the first one you call.
I will. I told Daniel and Bailey last week if she does it, I'll do it.
All right. I'll sponsor you with some products.
All right. Deal. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks,
see ya.
Okay, bye. Bye now.